Tonight, we're going to recount a story, a really chilling story that happened in California. It's a case that really stirs up a lot of debate. It touches on some very unsettling medical questions, legal questions too.
Absolutely.
We're talking about the events surrounding Kai Yang and her baby daughter, Mirabelle.
It's a truly perplexing case. Makes you think about those dark areas where, illness, terrible circumstances, and just unimaginable tragedy all meet.
Yeah. So Kai Yang, she was 29 at the time, a Hmong woman, mother of 4, and Mirabelle was just 2 months old. Kai Yang spoke English.
And the Hmong background is relevant here. Their history, migration to the U.S.
It definitely adds a layer, yeah. Especially when we get into some of the cultural interpretations later on.
Right.
Now, from everything we know, Kai Yang seemed like a good mother, a devoted mother, really. Her husband, Chi Lo, he was a truck driver, so he was away quite a bit for work. Kai Yang's mother, Sua, lived with them, helped a lot with the kids. Crucial support. Even the husband's brother, Vang Lo, visited often, helped out.
So a family unit involved in childcare.
Exactly. And there was no history, nothing to suggest she'd ever harm her children.
Wow.
Which makes what happened on March 17th, 2011, just all the more disturbing.
It's that contrast, isn't it? The normal picture versus the event. Makes it hard to wrap your head around.
It really does. So that morning, March 17th, Chi Lo's away on a trip.
Yeah.
Kai Yang and Sua are home with the 4 kids. Let's try to piece together that morning.
Yeah, okay.
Kai Yang was apparently working on her laptop, doing something to supplement their income. Around 7 a.m., Mirabelle wakes up crying, like babies do.
Sure.
Kai Yang changes her, then gives her to Sua, the grandmother, to look after. Then she wakes the older 3 for school. Just a normal, busy morning.
Standard routine.
Then Sua takes the 2 oldest to school, comes back around 10 a.m., goes out to the garden. The 3rd child, he was playing a bit rough with Mirabelle, so Sua tells him to be ready for his school later. So by late morning, it's just Kai Yang, Sua, and baby Mirabelle in the house.
Okay, so the scene is set. Mother, grandmother, baby. Seemingly normal.
Until it wasn't. Mirabelle started getting really fussy, just crying and crying, couldn't be consoled. Kai Yang tried, eventually gave her a pacifier. Mirabelle drifts off, but only for maybe 15-20 minutes. Then wakes up again, crying just as hard.
Oh, poor little thing. Stressful for everyone.
Definitely. And then, later that morning around lunchtime, Chi Lo calls, like he usually does when he's away. They talk for almost 2 hours.
2 hours. Wow.
Yeah. And according to him, Kai Yang sounded completely normal. Didn't say anything about Mirabelle being difficult, nothing out of the ordinary at all.
That's unsettling, looking back on it. That long call sounding normal.
It really is. Okay, fast forward a bit. Around 1:55 p.m., Chi Lo's brother, Vang Lo, shows up to pick up the kids from school. He sees Kai Yang in her room with Mirabelle, sitting at the computer. Sua's still out gardening.
Right.
And this is where things get critical. For about 11 minutes, Kai Yang is alone in the room with Mirabelle. Just 11 minutes.
Nobody else there. No witnesses.
No one.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Kai Yang comes running out into the garden toward Sua, frantic. She's covered in sweat, carrying Mirabelle.
Oh, wow.
Sua's instantly alarmed, obviously. Kai Yang is panicked, begging her to call an ambulance, saying Mirabelle's really sick.
Wilson and shift. The panic. That's, yeah.
Sua looks at Mirabelle. The baby is red, limp. And Kai Yang, her speech seems slurred. And kind of disturbingly, Sua notices her pants are wet, like she'd urinated.
Okay, so multiple concerning signs there.
Definitely. Sua takes Mirabelle inside, starts taking off her clothes, and she makes this awful discovery. Mirabelle's skin is bright red, and it looks like it's peeling.
Peeling?
Yeah. And then Sua sees Kai Yang actually peeling off some of the baby's skin herself. It looked blistered, like a bad burn. And that's when Sua realizes the baby's body is incredibly hot.
Oh, God. That description, the skin, the heat, that doesn't sound like just being sick.
No. Right then, Vang Lo gets back with the other kids. Kai Yang asks him to rush Mirabelle to the hospital. But Sua, she knows this is serious. She decides, no, call 911.
Probably the right call.
While they're waiting, Sua asks Kai Yang, what happened? What happened? But Kai Yang just keeps saying she can't remember. She doesn't know.
Memory loss.
That's what she said. And Sua, knowing Kai Yang has epilepsy, starts thinking, maybe her seizures came back. Sua even suggests maybe Kai Yang had a seizure holding Mirabelle, and the baby fell onto a space heater they had.
An accident theory, based on the epilepsy.
Right. So paramedics and police arrive. They try everything, but it's too late. Mirabelle couldn't be revived. Declared dead right there.
Awful.
But the first responders, they notice something really important. Mirabelle's body is red, yes, but her clothes, her hair, they aren't burned at all.
That's key. If she fell in a heater.
Exactly. You'd expect clothes to be singed, at least. That observation. That's what leads them to order a full autopsy.
A crucial detail contradicts the simple accident idea.
Totally. So the police interview Kai Yang. She sticks to her story. Memory loss, maybe a seizure. She mentioned seeing a white light, feeling wet. Sua backs up the sequence of events and her theory about the heater. But then the autopsy results come back. And they are devastating and completely unexpected. No burns from fire, no scalding, nothing like that.
So not the heater, not boiling water. What then?
The injuries looked like radiation exposure, like high-intensity radiation therapy or, radiation sickness from nuclear exposure. Internally, her organs were severely damaged.
Radiation? How?
It led investigators down a terrifying path. They found records of 2 other cases, one in Texas, one in Ohio, infants with eerily similar internal injuries.
And what happened in those cases?
The conclusion was horrifying. The babies have been placed inside microwave ovens.
Oh my God.
Based on that and the specific nature of Mirabelle's injuries, the police and forensic teams came to the same awful conclusion. Mirabelle was likely put in a microwave for several minutes.
Autopsy pointing to that, it just changes everything.
Completely. And maybe we should quickly touch on how microwaves work, just to understand why the injuries look like that.
Yeah, okay. It's not like a regular oven.
Right. Microwaves use electromagnetic waves. They basically make the water molecules inside the food vibrate like crazy. That vibration creates heat, cooking from the inside out.
Unlike a conventional oven heating from the outside in.
Exactly. So the police looked into, theoretically, what might happen if a person was put in a large microwave.
Based on science, not actual tests, obviously.
God, no. Based on physics?
Yeah.
Initially, probably warmth, then quickly vision changes, skin tingling, sweating, then blistering starts skin, tongue, then internal damage escalates rapidly, blood heating up, maybe boiling, blindness, organs shutting down, death likely within minutes.
A truly horrific way to imagine dying.
Unbelievably so. The key forensic point was that internal heating, without external burns on clothes, strongly suggested microwave exposure. It just blew the heater theory out of the water.
The physics of it lined up with the autopsy, not the accident theory.
Precisely. So the police investigation wraps up. They collect the family's microwave as evidence. Our sources don't detail specific DNA results, but they do note no blood was found inside it. The police developed a reconstruction. Mirabelle likely placed on her back inside, microwaved alive, maybe 2-3 minutes, possibly longer, maybe up to 5, based on a setting often used on that microwave.
Just unthinkable.
Understandably, the police did not buy the seizure story as an explanation for this. They saw it as intentional homicide.
But Kai Yang stuck to her story.
She did. Maintained her innocence, the memory loss. But she also offered, another possibility. Maybe an evil spirit possessed her. She mentioned Mirabelle making strange eye movements, maybe triggering it.
Okay, now we're back to the cultural context.
Yeah, it's really important here. In some Hmong communities, epilepsy isn't just seen as medical. It can be understood through spiritual beliefs, spirit possession, maybe a connection to the spirit world.
Like in that book, The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down. It explores that cultural perspective on epilepsy within a Hmong family in the U.S.
Exactly. So her suggesting spirit possession, while maybe sounding strange to some, fits within a specific cultural framework.
It provides context for her explanation, even if it wasn't the one the police accepted.
Right. Investigators also looked into her epilepsy history more closely. Medication compliance. She said she took it, but records showed, about 100 seizures over 15 years. So she was diagnosed at 13.
So frequent seizures, despite medication, possibly, indicates it wasn't fully controlled.
Seems that way. Now, typically, an epileptic seizure, the grand mal type, lasts maybe a minute or two, often loss of consciousness, maybe incontinence, followed by confusion, amnesia, the postictal state.
Right. And recovery takes time.
According to her mother, Sua, Kai Yang usually needed about 30 minutes to recover fully after a seizure. There are also other seizure types, complex partial seizures, where someone might perform automatic actions almost like sleepwalking without awareness.
But automatisms, yeah, that complicates things slightly.
It does. But the police focused on the timeline. On the day Mirabelle died, Kai Yang seemed to recover incredibly fast. Within that 11-minute window, she was able to run outside, talk to Sua, understand instructions. Police also noted she seemed calm later, and they didn't detect any smell of urine, despite her claim about feeling wet.
So the quick recovery, her apparent clarity, it didn't match the usual pattern described by her mother or the typical post-seizure state.
That's what the police argued.
No.
They didn't believe the seizure explained what happened, so she was arrested, charged with Mirabelle's murder.
And it went to trial.
Yes. Her testimony was apparently quite confused, inconsistent. They had to take breaks. Medical experts did testify, though. They acknowledged it was possible, though rare, for certain types of seizures, those automatisms, to lead to complex, even harmful, involuntary actions.
So the possibility wasn't entirely dismissed by science, just seen as unlikely.
Seems to be the case. Her family also testified, confirming her epilepsy history, even a seizure she'd had while driving once. Then, a really significant piece came from her husband, Chi Lo. He revealed that after Mirabelle was born, Ka-Yang had complained about hearing whispers, voices.
Whispers before the death.
Yes, and apparently those whispers stopped after Mirabelle died.
Wow, that adds another dimension. Hallucinations.
It raises that question. The prosecution brought up postpartum depression. They suggested maybe that interacting with her epilepsy could have created a state where she might harm Mirabelle.
Postpartum depression is serious, involves sadness, hopelessness, but typically not violence or psychosis.
Right. They differentiated it from postpartum psychosis, which is much rarer and more severe,
Yeah.
involving breaks from reality, hallucinations, delusions. The prosecution didn't necessarily claim psychosis, but hinted the depression combined with epilepsy could have been a factor.
A complex interplay of potential factors.
Extremely complex. In the end, the jury found Ka-Yang guilty. Intentional homicide, child endangerment resulting in death. Sentenced to 25 years.
Despite the defense arguing it was a tragic outcome of her epilepsy.
Correct. And adding another layer. Ka-Yang was actually pregnant during the trial. She gave birth to another daughter while she was incarcerated. That daughter is being raised by Chi Lo.
Just layers upon layers of tragedy in this story.
It really is. And it's not necessarily over. Ka-Yang has the right to appeal, and her appeal is reportedly being considered.
Yeah.
So the final legal outcome might still change.
So the conviction could potentially be upheld or overturned. It's still ongoing.
Exactly. So that's the story of Ka-Yang and Mirabelle. Deeply, deeply unsettling. Was it a horrific, tragic accident caused by a medical condition? Or was it a deliberate act of violence? That question, it still hangs heavy over this case.
It really forces you to confront the ambiguity, the conflicting evidence, the cultural factors, the medical possibilities.
Yeah, we really encourage you listening to just sit with the complexities here. The evidence, the cultural lens, the different accounts. It makes you think hard about where health, belief, and the justice system collide, sometimes with devastating results.
A truly disturbing intersection.
And that's where we have to leave the story for now. If there are significant updates on her appeal or anything else, we'll be sure to share them. On behalf of Horror Docs, thank you for tuning in. If this account gave you pause, made you think, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time.